Hi, everybody. As I'm here, your transformation coach, I'm founder of Heal the Heart. I empower you to achieve mental and emotional clarity, find your purpose, and take actions toward living a fulfilled and happier life. We are starting another video from the Bits of Inspiration series when women come to share their stories with the hope that they can empower and inspire others. Today, we are joined by Amanda Benson Tilch, who is a wonderful and successful consultant. She is a single mother of two and recently remarried.
Yes.
Yes, I wasn't going to miss
I was
that.
going to say.
No, for a while you were a single mother of two.
Yes,
And
about 8 years.
yes, and recently you got remarried. And now, Amanda is here to talk about her story. When she was sat down by then her husband in 2010 to hear the devastating comment or the news saying, I want a divorce. And she's going to share how through her actions and making decisions to step out of that victim mentality, she actually stepped onto her path for healing and took actions to empower herself and her two children. Amanda, thank you for being here. Really appreciate
You're welcome.
you deciding to share your story.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. This is not a story that I have shared before, so I'm thankful that you have a platform that you're helping women and men, I think, get through their struggles. You have a wonderful business, so.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Tell us about your process, your story. How did it feel when you heard? And of course, I can imagine. And how did you get through?
Well, that's the great question. I think that that's different for everybody, but for me, it was very quick. I actually was able to handle everything in a weekend.
Okay, I need you to come a little
closer?
bit this way. Yes.
I'll get as close to you
Yes.
as you need.
Close and comfortable.
No problem. So we were kind of struggling. My ex-husband and I were struggling for a bit. So kind of the part where he sat me down to have that conversation, I wasn't incredibly shocked, although, it was hurtful and hard to handle and very emotional. I wasn't completely shocked because he had given me some signs the previous, I guess, maybe couple of weeks leading up to that something was up. He was being very evasive and a little strange and very distant. And so when he did sit me down, he told me that he didn't love me anymore. And he said about 10 other things, like that he didn't want the responsibility of the house anymore, that he didn't want I guess all the responsibilities that came along with that, and the marriage and just the bills, like everything. He just didn't want it. But really what I heard was that he didn't love me anymore. That's the only thing that I really heard. Yes. And then kind of immediately my thoughts went to the kids. So my son was 9 at the time and my daughter was 6, which is pretty young to have to, but old enough to know what was going on. And so I immediately just kind of thought about how are we going to tell them and what are they going to say, and they're going to be devastated and heartbroken, and how do you get past that? I think any parent on either side of the situation would obviously think about that first, and that's where my mind went. And I'm very much a planner. You know that about me. I'm like organized and plan, and I wanted to know how are we going to do all of this. So I kind of set my emotions aside. I mean, I was tearful and crying, and obviously it was a hard conversation to have. But when I heard that he didn't love me anymore, that was all I needed. Like, I just kind of felt like, okay, so what do we do now?
So is that what he said? I don't love you anymore?
Yes, that's how he said it. He just said, I don't love you anymore, and I want a divorce.
So you wouldn't hear anything after that?
He listed some things, but I was just in like an awe of like, this is wow. Like, because I kind of always thought that even though we had struggled on and off, and we were together for 15 years, we were married for 11. We struggled with some things towards that end of a couple of years. And I just thought, well, we made a commitment to each other. So we would just work through it. Like, that's what we did. We would go to more therapy or something, which is what we've done in the past. come to find out, the reason why he just wanted to end was he had his own personal reason. So there was another woman. So I just had been thinking about really how would he tell the kids. And so I'm going to back up for a second, because when I was 22 years old, our family went through a devastating loss, was like the loss of my little brother.
Yes.
And so that is still processing, as you can tell.
Yes.
That was the hardest thing that our family has ever been through, me as well. But this moment of having to tell the kids about the divorce was just as hard. I felt like it was like the second hardest thing I'd ever been through. Ugh.
I am so sorry. So telling the kids, I'm just trying to understand the emotions and the feelings that you were going through. Was it a feeling that you have failed your kids? Or,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Big time. And then also, I'm a fixer. So it's like, this is the problem, so here's how I'm going to fix it. And I didn't have that solution at
You
the
didn't have
time.
control.
Didn't have
of the
control.
situation.
That's exactly
Yes.
it. Did not have control. Man, leaning into that is a good message for you guys to, that was, I wish I would have known that back then, to how to lean into that. But over the next week, we came up with a plan that we both felt was the best that we could do. And we did sit them down and talk to them about it. And it was like really hard, but that's what we did. And it was good. And it ended up being the best that it could be, I think. I mean, there's no good way to sugarcoat that situation. But kind of losing my brother and having gone through that and then having to tell the kids, I felt like we sat them down to tell them that someone that they loved dearly had died. Like that was very similar, because it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And the truth was that what they've known, the relationships with mommy and daddy had died. You know, it's not the same.
Exactly.
So those feelings, all the therapy I've had and everything, you know, those feelings are very similar. Like a death and a divorce are very similar for a lot of people.
It's a loss.
It's a loss. And so that's why I felt it relative to share that, because it was so hard, and the feelings were so similar to go through that.
The way that you went through the process of grief and mourning, it was very interesting to me when when you shared that with me, was that I'm pretty sure it was ongoing for a while, but facing it head on,
Yes.
to deal with it and move forward,
Yeah.
to gain your control of the situation. Tell us about that, because
Yeah.
that is very interesting.
Yeah.
And love that story.
Thank you. I mean, that's why I'm here sharing it, because I felt like it would be helpful to other people. And because I am very decisive and I do like to fix things and move on, but I also am a firm believer that you have to process things, because otherwise you bury them down, they will come out in other areas. And you could talk more about that. I'm sure you have stories and lessons on that. So when he moved out on that Friday, basically that was like the goal. So I learned the only place in my house that nobody could hear me was upstairs in our master bedroom closet. And when he left that night, Friday night, I put the kids to bed, and which was like so hard and took a long time. I went into that closet and I just laid on the floor and I just cried. And I just cried for a long time. And I looked up at all of the stuff that we had together, you know, like literally his tuxedo from our wedding, like 10 years ago or 11 years ago was there. And the stupid tie-dye shirt that I hated was hanging there. Like all of our clothes touching and all of our belongings in this closet were together. And I just decided in that moment, I just got up and I decided to pack all of his stuff. Like that was the decision I made. I'm going to pack all of this up. And I started Friday night and I made a good, you know, dent. But then Saturday morning I got up and I did pancakes for the kids, and I just put movie after movie on downstairs to get them occupied, and I went back to the closet and I continued to cry. And I like with each item I folded, I just was able to process like our relationship, the years of our relationship, by packing all of that stuff. So I think it was the action I was taking as well. Like I felt like I was doing something. And I just, with every single thing that I packed up and put in bags, and I did our bathroom, like smelling his cologne, and like I just cried it all out. Like that was the end of us, I felt like. And I was able to process all of that in that weekend, which is in my closet, which is the weirdest thing. But it wasn't even an opportunity, it just happened. It just was the right thing. And I took it all downstairs and I placed it by the front door. It was a couple of trips. And, and he came to get it and he was like, wow, thank you for all that. And I was like, whatever. I didn't really, like, you're welcome, but I didn't really do it for you. I actually did it for me. And I didn't know that at the time, but that's what I was able to grieve, was in that time.
Because it was like you were, as you said, you were processing all the emotions, and you were reflecting on the life that the two of you had together.
Yeah.
And it allowed you to come to a closure. It's like packaging everything. As you said, it wasn't for him. It was like, okay, this phase of my life is over. It is, I'm in pain, I'm hurt, but I can deal with it now, and I can let it go.
Yeah.
And that was your process.
Yeah. That's what happened.
Yes.
It was strange, and I don't know if that's like I think that all of those emotions of what you just said was definitely in that moment. And I'm thankful that I had that opportunity to do it, and I wasn't overwhelmed with everything that life gets, hands at you at the moment. But it was really great. Great in the matter that I was able to have that moment, I think, because then from then on I was like, oh, okay, well, not to say that I didn't cry and be still sad and everything else, and just the struggles of, okay, where do we live now? And I got to find a job, and like all the stuff that comes along with now starting over.
Yes.
But to be able to have that moment, I was like, oh, well, at least for a short time, I have this really nice closet to myself. Like, try to make the best of it, I guess, as it can.
To change your perception.
Yes.
That is the big deal, because our perception becomes a reality.
Yeah.
You could be stuck in that dark hole of keep crying and see all the negatives and stay in that victim mental.
A lot of people do.
Yes. But you decided, I'm done. Yeah. It's going to be difficult. It is challenging, but I'm going to move on. It's making the decision.
Yeah.
And you said something about decision making.
Yes.
And if you were going to give one message to people who are watching this video, what would that message be?
So I always like to refer to this because I use this in my consulting as well, but it was helpful for me in that time. So there's like three different things that you can do in regards to making a decision. One of them is to actually make the decision, and then to just be certain about that decision, that you believe in it. This is what we're doing. It's the right thing. And then to take action. So like to do the steps that you need to take to actually get the decision done, completed. And so deciding that knowing that the marriage was over, and deciding I had to move past this, and we get to pack all this stuff up, and then actually doing it, like those things were the thing that helped me get through it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna, because with your situation, with the loss or with the divorce, it is final. You know that decision has to be made, and it is certain.
Yes.
Right? So how do you make a decision and become certain about it in your everyday life, that this is the right decision? Because a lot of people are stuck because they debate on, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. I don't know if this is the right path. So how do you make those decisions that you're certain about?
So that's great. I was just talking to my husband about now husband about that just this week, actually. So there was a time that I was very vulnerable in that time, and I didn't believe in anything I didn't think anything I was going to do was the right thing, because my best friend at the time just left me. So I felt like my husband at the time, I felt very unsure of what I was, like, I didn't know, like, I felt like everything I had done up until that fell apart. So how can I trust the next decisions I was going to make? So a couple things I did, I leaned on my family, which were, I have incredible parents, and I leaned on some friends that really helped me. I drank a lot of wine, but anyways, that stuff got me through it.
We're not promoting that.
But starting to make those decisions of like how to get my life back on track, and like, what do I do? What job do I take? Where are the kids and I going to live, and how does all that work? I really just kind of let other people help me, because I didn't feel capable of making the decision. And I think just trusting others and asking for help is one way to do it. Finding your tribe.
Yes. Being able to rely on
especially in the moment of the trauma, I guess you would say.
Yes. Thank you, Amanda.
You're so welcome.
Much. Really appreciate your time and coming over to share your story. It's always wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
If you have a story that you would like to share, please contact me at azamirelian@healtheheart.com, and let's chat a bit. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.